They say you should choose your architect as carefully as you choose your family doctor. But how do you know you even need one, and how do you find one if you do? Well, we're here at GTM Architects in Bethesda, Maryland, and we're going to talk to the named partner, and he's going to give us some tips.
Well, these are some typical drawings that we might give a client.
George Myers has been doing commercial and residential architecture for over 20 years. He created a manual to help clients new to working with an architect.
Well, the first thing they need to do when they're considering hiring an architect is to try to make sure they understand what type of project it is they're trying to do and what it is they're trying to achieve. After that, they have to decide which architect is best for that project. Well, I would say in our case, most of our new clients are references, that they have other friends of theirs or they've seen things that we might have done in a publication that is similar to their project. I think that's the best way if you're an owner of a home to go through that process, to look at magazines, to then call your local AIA and try to narrow down the architects who are proficient in your type of project.
George actually did work on this house in Bethesda, Maryland. This addition is his handiwork. We're going to go inside and talk to the owner and find out how she connected with George. A few years ago, Karen Collins and her husband decided they needed to expand their home. The first thing they did was seek the advice of an architect. So Karen, how did you finally end up choosing George as your architect?
Well, George is someone that our family has known for a while. We're friends with he and his wife and children. And I had a chance to be in his home and some other homes that he has done the plans for. I really brought him here initially to take a look and say, do you think that we should do this? You know, as an architect, does this make sense? We know we want a bigger kitchen and a family room. We wanted a basement, to dig out a basement. We needed, a couple of additional bathrooms. So can you, George, take a look at things and make that work?
One of the first things that'll come up is whether or not you feel comfortable in communicating with that architect and you feel like he's listening to you. The owner sometimes has great ideas and they'll come up with a picture of something. I'd love to work this in. Do you think we can do it? And in that case, we sort of facilitate that. And the collaboration that the owner becomes part of the design process and contributes leads to the best projects, in my opinion.
I felt like we communicated with one another very well, and he had recommended the builder for us to use, and so he really trusted the builder, and I think that had a lot to do with probably how seamless things were.
Ask about the architect's relationship with builders, because the builder is a big part of whatever project you're going to be doing. And once construction starts, the architect's role changes, and we actually enforce the agreement between the owner and the builder.
An architect can perform any number of services for you, from an initial site plan and drawings to actually finding a contractor and picking finishes. It's up to you to figure out what works best for you and your budget.
I think if you get into anything structural, like knocking a wall down, that's probably the easiest rule of thumb, to say that you definitely need an architect if that's what you're going to do. Sometimes I'll have clients come in and they'll say, well, I want to make my kitchen bigger and I want to knock this wall down and go in that direction. After looking at it, I can tell, well, it's going to be a lot more expensive to do that than to go the other way based on a structural consideration.
Any advice for someone out there who's sort of beginning a process similar to what you had already gone through?
I would say that really understanding before you get started, even with an architect or a builder, to the best of your ability, knowing what you want.